Okay, it's been a little bit, but weather's cleared up and I'm going to a different part of town which has a lot more dense streets and what have you. So we'll see how self-driving beta does with this. Car is now in control. It's a little bit of a blind turn here, so we'll see how it does edging out and looking. Kind of hesitating, but actually it's not terrible. Getting back into the lane here. So a couple things I've observed about self-driving beta as I've used it much more extensively. Obviously, as everybody says, there's definitely problems with it still. There's definitely phantom braking issues and it making strange choices sometimes, that kind of thing. What I found, one of the patterns I think I've detected is that a lot of times when it makes very hesitating moves, it's primarily because it can't see the lane markers or the sides of the road are out of view, even for me. And where I've learned to be able to deal with those scenarios by either knowing in my mind's eye where the edges of the roads are and what oncoming traffic would look like. The car doesn't have the ability to do that, at least at this point. Part of the disadvantage of doing a fully vision system, which I hope Tesla has realized in some of the rumors of, going back to some level of radar, etc. But in any case, that's kind of a limitation regardless. As Elon had said, we use vision, which is true, but we also use the ability to make a picture of the world in our mind's eye and react accordingly, among a bunch of other functions, of course. But self-driving beta seems to actually have the capacity to do something similar. I've noticed that in routes that I do often, the visualizations, the world building, where each of the curb cuts are, where all the individual streets are, etc., is quite a bit more accurate, quite a bit sharper than in an area like this where self-driving beta has never seen this area. So the visualizations will be a lot fuzzier. It's discovering the area where each of the medians are, where all of the lanes, how many lanes there are, and all these things in real time, or at least in near real time. So it's a lot fuzzier. But if I were to do the same route, 10 more times, it would be more accurate theoretically. At least it appears as if it's doing that. And whether that translates into better driving or not, I really don't know. I'm not sure. But as you can see, this is definitely a much more urban environment than my first video. There's a lot more traffic, a lot more unpredictable scenarios, people walking around, bicycles, still fairly wide. So there's not a lot of incredibly narrow areas, although I think up ahead in this route, there will be some of that. But generally speaking, the roads are in less good condition here. This is an older part of San Diego. And so it's just a busier area. There's a lot more going on here. So far the car has done pretty well. I have no complaints. By the way, if I do take over control or something of those nature, as I'm monitoring this, I will let you know. But I haven't had to do anything on this drive thus far, because the car's performed just fine. So we're taking a left here on Park Boulevard. Our destination is fairly close up ahead here, just another couple of blocks. Park will get more narrow than this is here, at least at the very tail end here. And by the way, that intersection we just went through is an incredibly confusing intersection for a human being, at least for me and all the people I've ever driven through it. There's about 3 different directions of traffic all merging in one location, many different it's not in a grid exactly. There's a bunch of different angles that are all converging in one location. Lots of lanes that are combining and loosening into multiple lanes. It's a very confusing intersection in self-driving beta. I mean, it was a simple left turn, but it did okay. No real confusion, no hesitation at all there. The other thing I've noticed, at least in this build, and this is 10.69.3.1 of self-driving beta, it's not showing a lot of the cones for what they are. A little bit of hesitation badness there. Luckily, I have plenty of room between me and the next car behind me. But as you can see, it's some of these lanes here are a little bit strange. They're not straight, and the side of the road comes in and out by a lane or a half a lane or more, depending on who's parked or not parked, or what the actual curvature of these buildings are, etc. So very, very unique area here, but it's handling it okay. It's not great by any means. Here's another scenario where you see the cars parked on the side and they're parked in the opposite direction of what you normally do. Those are back-in spots. But the other thing I was saying is some of this construction here, which you don't see self-driving beta handling well, is construction areas yet, at least in this build. It is doesn't slow for a lot of temporary cones. It doesn't seem to be recognizing the construction area, whereas the version that I was using previously that was not self-driving beta absolutely did recognize that. I'm going to turn it off now here because we've hit our destination. So that's something I'm going to monitor and just kind of see if future versions do better with that. It is a little bit concerning, obviously, that it's not really recognizing unusual scenarios and kind of plowing right through them. I have to say, there were a couple of scenarios yesterday and the day before where I went through a construction area, plowed right through, but I wouldn't say it was actually did it unsafely. It was just a little bit fast for my taste. I'd rather, at least out of politeness, do it slower, but it was actually okay. So anyway, that's the end of this drive. I'll try to do some more. Thanks.